What's going on, people? Thanks for tuning in to the 116th edition of the MMA Podcast. We got a bunch to break down. Last week, we went in depth on the Jon Jones cocaine suspension, and a few things have unraveled since then. He spent one night in rehab before checking out to go watch his brother play in the UFC Championship game. Apparently, that wasn't a huge deal. We're also waiting on the CIR test, which the NSAC said they did, but they didn't. We're going to veer off there and break down this weekend's card, UFC Boston, along with Pitbull versus Straus. Also, a lot of fight announcements: Mir versus Silva, our boy Aljo versus Manny Gamburian, Nelson Overy, Machida Rockhold. Let's do it.
You're listening to the MMA Podcast.
Thank you, Lenny Hart. People, follow Lenny Hart on Twitter. Follow Eddie Bravo and Smoke Serpent, who did the intro. Follow our boy Mystery Meds at Mystery Deja on Twitter, who will do our outro that you'll hear whenever we wrap this shit up. Shout out to... we'll save the shout-outs for the end because we got a lot to break down. It's only myself and my co-host. You know him as the host of the Word on the Street podcast. He's on Twitter at the Aunt Jimmy Show. Ramses, what's going on?
What's up, Jake from the MMA Podcast? Thank you for having me on. It's a privilege every time. I just want to say to everybody listening out there, you're about to hear the whole truth, the shit that nobody else wants to talk about. It's going down here. We got everything for you. Follow me on Twitter, The Aunt Jimmy Show. It will change your life. I am the future of everything.
That's right. He is the future of everything. He is the future of the world. And if you want to call, we're going to try and keep the lines pretty clear. Just so whoever wants to call in can do so. So we'll try and keep calls to 5 or 10 minutes. But if you do want to call in, if you got a hot take, we always appreciate hearing it. You can call us at 213-457-3380 or Skype us at the MMA Podcast. Or if you don't feel like talking, you want to tweet us, we are on Twitter at the MMA Podcast. Like I said, Ramses is at the Aunt Jimmy Show. And let's get straight into it. I was harping so much on the transparency of the silliness and the bullshit and the double standards of the Jones non-suspension, non-punishment. We sort of beat it to death, but it's really funny. It's almost a slap in the face hearing the UFC backs Jon Jones going into a recovery facility, and he spends one night there and leaves to go see his brother play in a football game. And not that I blame him, just I guess it's not as serious as Jones wanted you to think. It's the PR machine wanted you to think. I'll save the NSAC saying that they did the CIR test and it came back when really it didn't. But I just want to touch on the silliness of the one night rehab stay. Ramsey said, "Have you ever been to rehab, and did you stay longer than one night?" I know you've lived a tumultuous life down there in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, I'm in and out of the joint all the time, man. All types of institutions. They can't stop me. Can't stop, won't stop. You know what I'm saying? They call me here in Austin, I'm known as the Puff Daddy. That's right. Yeah, but Jones, man, I applaud his efforts to recover and rehabilitate himself from the horrible substance known as la cocaína. It's great for him that he at least put in a couple hours. You know, it's like going to the gym. You put in a couple hours, you rest a little bit, you go back sometime probably. Um, I do want to point out that Nate Diaz was right. Nate Diaz did tweet that it was a conspiracy and it was just a PR stunt and bullshit. He knew. I mean, shit. They probably because they tried to make him go to some type of rehab when the marijuana thing went down. I don't know. But he knew it was bullshit. He called it. So did Nick Diaz, pointing out the hypocrisy of the NSAC, which we'll get to. But yeah, man, I laughed my ass off once again. But the saddest part, though, I did tweet this out earlier, was seeing his poor mother, who was elderly and blind, being interviewed and harassed by some local media, not even a big network, but that's where they found out that Jones was only in rehab overnight, from his mother, who probably didn't know any better. Who, I don't know, but did she even know she was being filmed? I'm not being an asshole here.
I don't want to point any fingers, but I bet you Luke Thomas was behind this bullshit.
Yeah, that's the exact type of person that would do this sort of thing. This poor woman. She's got to answer and defend her son's cocaine use. It's just nonsense.
The same man who I will forever hold it against him that on the day of my 99th show, I am trying to pump up, promote show number 99, and you know what this motherfucker does, Ramses?
Say word.
He schedules his 100th show the hour my 99th show is going live.
Talk about piece of shit.
Talk about cross programming. Talk about underhanded moves.
Bitch.
I'll never forgive him, Ramses.
You'll get even. You'll get revenge, man.
One day.
At the end of the day, man, there's only going to be one man standing, the last stand.
And we literally buried the guy.
God bless.
What's up, Luke Thomas? I'm setting up drops. But, yeah, so.
There was a new Bigfoot hoax. Did you see that on the
No.
virals? It was just some new video that came out. It was a Bigfoot sighting in Arizona. It was supposed to be four of them, like sitting by the freeway, but then like someone went back to the same location with an HD camera, and it was just trees and rocks that looked like 5 Bigfoots.
The guy is all over the place. He's in Arizona. He's in the Himalayas. He's in the Pacific Northwest. The motherfucker gets around. We have honestly beat the Jon Jones thing to death, but the one thing that I sort of hinted at before, we talked about the silliness of the one-day rehab stint. But what's even crazier is that we're supposed to accept that the NSAC comes out and says, yeah, so the CAR test came back and it's clean, everyone. It's clean. We're all good. Brush your hands off. Everything's good. And then this morning, I'm pulling the tweet up now. This morning, Brett Okamoto tweets, Bob Bennett told me today after a meeting that Jones' CIR and Fight Night tests are not available yet, which in effect means that the NSAC lied about the results being back and being clean. It isn't like last week Ramses and I harped really hard about the fact that the NSAC is in the back pocket of the Fertitas, and oh god, this is one of probably a dozen things in the last year or two that are, I guess, we're just supposed to brush off. All right, it isn't a giant deal that the commissioner of the NSAC lies about a test to benefit the UFC. God damn, this shit is starting to get so shady, Ramses. What the fuck's going on? Maybe you're right.
The Nevada State Athletic Commission is one of the biggest collections of what appear to be utter frauds. Did you hear about that woman that was arrested last week because she was pretending to be a lawyer and was actually like
I heard
getting people's cases cleared and she was actually good but she had no license to practice. She had never been to law school or whatever. That's what I see at these Nevada State Athletic Commission hearings. These people appear to be out of their minds and definitely out of their elements. None of them, as we've seen repeatedly, none of them appear to be competent at all when it comes to anything whatsoever, even in the matter of their own appearance and choice of attire. I mean, my God, that Keith Kaiser dressed up like
fruits.
Dressed up not like Bob Barker from The Price is Right. Dressed up like that announcer guy from The Price is Right. It's that guy's preposterous. That everybody's on something, it seems like, allegedly. And you know what? The reason they're not giving Jones heat, I guarantee you, it's probably because Jon was their dealer. They're just as pissed off as the rest of us. This whole damn thing is an outrage and a farce. The commission is a fraud, but yeah, do whatever. I hope the carbon dating comes back and that Jones is just clean from now on. God bless him and his family. I'm sorry that they fucking ambushed his mother, whoever that reporter is. Just quit now, young man. You're a piece of shit, and that's the word on the street.
I sort of hate to throw such a broad end of the question out, but it's so obvious that the UFC acts very transparently as far as booking fights that are about money and not ratings. You know, the classic clip, which we are in the process of getting from Michael Chiavello when we had him on a couple years ago. It's not about rankings; it's about ratings. It's like they're not even trying to hide it anymore. Yeah,
Hold on a minute. Whoa.
Hold on.
What the fuck?
There's a certain Jew here that has something to say before you decide to skip over and move on to the next question or the next topic that you have, Jake. First of all, hi, Dad. How are you doing? Hi, Yao. I know you're listening somewhere.
Bitch,
what the
spawned
fuck?
from hell?
Yeah, I invaded the show. I'm here. And I have something to say about Jon Jones. Jon Jones is an addict. It's not easy being an addict. You desire something. Jon Jones, he desires fame, he desires fortune, he desires the championship, but more than anything, he desires that high, that adrenaline rush that he gets when he's beating the shit out of a guy in the cage. If Jon Jones couldn't do that in the cage, he'd probably be doing that out on the street somewhere and probably would be in jail. Now, that's not trying to be racist or anything. That's just saying the truth. I mean,
simple mathematics.
The guy has shown that he is a full-fledged criminal. Jon Jones, for some reason, has decided that coke. I mean, it's not surprising that coke is more important than being champion, which will ultimately be his downfall. And it's pathetic that the UFC is covering it up as best as they can, and the Athletic Commission is once again playing into the favors of the Fertittas. It's not good. It's bad for the sport. It's bad for MMA. Things are bad, but good at the same time because there's other good things going on. They're trying to mask it with good fights, big fights. Yay, we got Anderson Silva versus Nick Diaz. Ooh, we got Alexander Gustafsson, Anthony Johnson, Conor McGregor versus that German midget, Dennis Stever. Ooh, yay, we got Dennis. We got what's that guy from James Bond? The
Junior Dos Santos.
Oz?
No, the guy that played James Bond, who looks like Dennis Seaver.
Bronson? Or...
Daniel Craig.
Oh yeah.
He's fighting Conor McGregor on Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're trying to
That's
put on
right.
these freak show fights. They're doing McGregor versus Daniel Craig, the actor, to try and like kind of
That's why
change
he
your view
dresses
from all the
like
shit that's going on.
007.
But don't be fooled. There's bad shit going on. There's lawsuits for hundreds of millions of dollars. Their biggest star is testing positive for cocaine. That people don't understand how huge this is. I mean, it's as big as. Can you imagine if Floyd Mayweather went out and tested positive for cocaine? Which, by the way, I have no doubt in my mind that Floyd Mayweather has probably done cocaine or something very similar to it, at least weed. And
I'm trying to fix the lines, people. This is a hijacking.
And he's probably tested positive. I'm just making a point here, Jake. This is my return. I haven't been on the show in a while, so I need to let out some things. I got some things building up. I'm not holding back.
I don't know what's going on.
Let it out, son.
I'm letting it all out. The point is, Jon Jones' downfall, I believe, is coming. I believe the UFC is going to have a pretty shitty year in the sense that I believe Bellator is going to end up overtaking them. Not completely, but in a lot of areas. I believe they're actually going to outdo them on pay-per-view this year as far as who's going to put on the biggest show of the year. And
Question.
what, for me?
Yes.
For your son? First of all,
Yes.
hi, Dad. It's been
How
a
are
while.
you doing? Yeah, you're the biggest mistake of my life. But my question is, you mentioned that you're speculating that cocaine will be the downfall of Jon Jones's career. What exactly do you mean? Do you think like he'll OD or something? Is that what's going to happen in the 2015? What's the word? Say word.
Well, obviously doing coke and then trying exercise in any way, shape, or form is a terrible idea and can kill you. If you look at his test, what we're obviously talking about here is his testosterone levels, all the CIR shit and the results of that coming back. We saw with his testosterone levels that they were ridiculously low, that his TE ratio was ridiculously low. And I believe it was his free testosterone level was ridiculously low. That is alarming. Does that have anything to do with coke use? I don't know, but that also could point to PEDs. So coke is bad. He might be on PEDs. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, you heard it from JLP himself, near 100% possibly on PEDs in the sport.
It's definitely 100%. You got to be on something. But yeah, John was obviously like from those test results, it seems like at least the implication is that he was using some sort of masking drugs on top of the drugs that he was using for testosterone. And now he's just sprinkling a little bit of cocoa on top of it all. Yeah, it's a recipe for disaster. I imagine if Jon Jones was training and dropped dead of a heart attack. You know what would happen? The same thing that happened with Michael Jackson. They'd find out who his doctors were, and they'd try to put them away. But right now, nobody gives a shit who his doctors were. Who the fuck is prescribing all this shit that he's taking? Where's he getting it from? If the commission really cared about athletes and helping them out, they'd figure that shit out. They'd help out Johnny Jones.
Ooh, this is my song right there. This is my song. John's in love with the cocoa. You guys hear that remix? Yep.
I'm not going to play it for too long so we don't get pulled off YouTube.
John's in love with the cocoa.
Cocoa.
I don't have a second line for that. I'm working on a second line. I'll release that soon.
The broad question I was about to throw out to Ramses, which I guess I'll throw to Ramses, and then as long as you want to stay on Ross,
I'm taking over. I'm here.
What is the fucking answer? I mean, do we need a revamp of the athletic commission? I mean, it is so transparent that the NSA sees in the back pocket of Zuffa and the Fertitas. Like, what needs to happen for the sport to clean up its act? Is it just a unreasonable dream for for that to happen because the state and athletic commissions in and of themselves just are so corrupt usually. Am I just trying to be an optimist to think of a reality where all these athletic commissions aren't corrupt as shit? I mean, it is so transparent when the director of the NSAC comes out and says, "Oh wait, no, it came back clean," and then we find out like a day or two later, yeah, the test hasn't come back yet, and we're just supposed to brush it off our shoulders, like, yeah, he's just saying whatever. Like, no, like he obviously was in the back pocket of Lorenzo and Dana, whoever. I don't know. Is it unrealistic to want a reality where these athletic commissions aren't super corrupt and fucked up, Ramses?
There you go. Yes. That is the whole. That's the whole entire point. Like, if your question is, will the UFC ever clean up its act? See, my thing is, I reject the entire premise of that question, is the entire situation. In my mind, there should be no athletic commission. There should be no drug testing. Just fucking let these fucking guys fight. Every man for himself. See who the best is. See who can get on the best medication and the best human enhancing drugs possible. You've seen it. It doesn't work. This crazy ass regulation. It's always corrupt. Boxing. They can't even put together the biggest fight in history, of the modern age, Pacquiao versus Manniao. There you go. Basically, they can't even put that together, just because it's just such a huge, shit pile. Too much fuckery and corruption. Everybody just so greedy. They cannot even coexist anymore. This fight's gonna. It should have happened 5-6 years ago. Instead, the fans got robbed. But in the UFC, though, in the beginning of the UFC, they had no regulation, no rules. They weren't really sanctioned. Then, of course, they went for that. They've tried to clean up the sport. They submitted to the commissions, the drug testing, the government. They paid their dues. They had the lobbyists. They've gone every single legit route to try to legitimize the sport. And I think that did serve its purpose at the time. I think now they're good enough. I think they're good on their own now. I think if they said, you know what, fuck the commissions. We're just going to do the sport where we can. I think Fox would back them. I mean, like, the whole... It's sports entertainment. That's what it is. It's the WWE on steroids, literally, and it's just as real as it gets, just like they've always advertised. They need to go ahead and the UFC needs to just quit giving so much but fuck about the athletic commission. I mean, it's a joke at this point. That now it's to the point where trying to follow the commission is hurting them and making them look bad, when the whole purpose was to legitimize the sport and make it look good. Now the corruption's setting in. Now's the time to pull up the anchor, see what you can do on your own a little bit. They don't have to bend over for these people. They're incompetent. That's the word on the street.
Before we get off of this, we got to pass it over to Ross Finkelstein, who I didn't give a formal intro to. He is on Twitter at Ross Finkelstein, E before the L. Ross, what do you think is the answer? Yeah, we should really try and ratchet down the NSAC, investigate these relationships, this and that, and make sure we take the corruption out of the sport? Or is it just too far gone to even think about that? Because it's not corruption in that malicious and crazy a way, but when it's really transparent that the UFC is shielding their top guys, their top superstars, I don't know, it's kind of disheartening to see that.
Well, I'll put it this way. It should, it's clear corruption, and it should warrant a federal investigation, right? That's usually what should happen in a case like this. But then you remember, oh wait, it's the government. Yeah, they're kind of running that. The fucking athletic commission is run by it's run by the government. I mean, shit. What the fuck do we do? So like, the people that you go to tell on the people that are doing bad, the authority figures that are doing bad, they're on their side anyway. They are them.
This is some straight WWE authority shit.
This is literally, so Triple H and Stephanie McMahon are running both the WWE, the UFC, boxing, taekwondo, all combat sports. Taekwondo, do they do whatever?
Yes.
Jiu-jitsu, everything. Everything. They run everything. It's ridiculous. It's terrible. What is going to happen? I have no clue what the fuck's going to happen. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of like a TV show. It's like a really stupid soap opera.
Monday Night Raw.
It's kind of like watching Monday Night Raw. That's what the UFC has turned into at this point. And that's what MMA has turned into at this point. It has become sports entertainment, like Ramsey's just said. My dad actually spewed something. I'm going to abandon that joke because I just realized that couldn't have gone any worse.
That shit was going sexual, son.
That was going south. That couldn't have worked in my favor. Yeah. Back to the point I was making. I think...
So your dad's spewing?
Oh, God. All right. I should just hang up the call at this point. Just
stay with us.
What?
Stay with us, Mickelstein. You son of a bitch.
Stay with you. I'm saving your show. I'm bringing the ratings up. I'm watching these viewers increase. I am the MMA podcast. I created the MMA podcast, and I will forever be the MMA podcast.
It's 2.2 million live views, up from like 300 before you called in. So I really can't argue with that.
Future of the world.
These motherfuckers on Twitter.
Let's move on. We've harped enough about Jon Jones and all the cocaine addictions. We have a lot of fights to break down, actually. But first, the 10 solid seconds of sports. Let's do it. We got two conference championships, Seattle versus Green Bay and New England versus Indianapolis. And Ross's Ohio State Buckeyes win the national championship.
Oh, fuck yeah. What did I tell you? Wait, Jake, can I go off about that for like 2 seconds? Just
go off.
2 seconds.
Go off as long as you want.
Can I just get like 10 seconds?
Take the fucking mic.
Yo, Ohio State, fucking pulling it off. No one thought they could do it. They lose to Virginia Tech early in the season. Everybody's like, oh no, they can't do shit. I'm not even gonna lie. I counted them out myself for a little while, but then I started to believe. And then they started winning. And then they lose JT Barrett. First they lose Braxton Miller before the season even begins, and then we lose our second string, who ended up being better than the starter, and we get passed on to the third string. We get passed on to it all gets passed on to Cardell Jones, and Cardell Jones, he pulls through. He pulls out the victory. I mean, with the help of an insanely good team and Ezekiel Elliott, and yeah.
Did they
but nonetheless,
fire
national
Peyton's
champion.
coach?
And Urban fucking Meyer. Urban Meyer is ridiculous. Play that music, Jake. Play that fucking music. That victory song. First ever college football.
Not played it more than 5 or 10 seconds. Fuck Ohio State. Fuck Urban Meyer. No, honestly, no. Urban used to be the coach of my Florida Gators, and you got a lot of Gator fans who are so pissy about him leaving Florida, this and that. I don't have any hate. Urban, do what the fuck you want to do. You're a grown-ass man. You brought us 2 fucking titles. Do it up.
Wait, they fired Peyton's coach, right?
Jim McElwain's coming. Yeah, John Fox, the coach of the Denver Broncos. Man, we're going way more than the 10 usual solid seconds of sports. Sorry for those folks who don't give a shit about football.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. I apologize too.
No. It's all good. It's not their podcast. It's my podcast. Let's keep talking football. Yeah,
I'm just saying your 10 seconds of sports is the only news I hear about other sports in the whole week, and I'm not even joking.
Manning's coach with the Denver Broncos got fired. A lot of rumors. I'm hearing Tony Dungy might come back. That would be pretty raw. I like that.
Who did the Jets pick up? I apologize to all the viewers. I really don't. Who did the Jets pick up today as the new GM?
Michael Sam.
Michael Sam. Yep.
I'm leaving.
They picked up Michael Sam as their GM. Follow Russ Finkelstein, who I hope actually stays on the call, because we have a lot of fun fights to break down that were announced in the last week. The one I want to lead with, Lyoto Machida and Luke Rockhold targeted for UFC on Fox 15. Ross, if you're still with us, I want to throw it to you first. This is a fight between 2 very well-versed kickboxers. Luke has the size advantage, but Lyoto just has that amazing technique. I'm very interested to see what the line comes out at. I guess Lyoto might be a little bit of a favorite, but do not sleep on Luke Rockhold, people. I see you're still on the call, so I'll pass it over to you, Ross. What are you thinking for this fight that should go down at UFC on Fox 15?
Yeah, of course I'm still here. I would never leave you stranded like that. Unless we were in Vegas, and then I would totally leave you stranded, and I would laugh hysterically. This fight is ridiculously good. We all saw it coming, but it was one of those it needs to happen fights, and it's one of those the time is now fights. So hopefully they promote it as such, because it deserves the same kind of recognition as a title fight, because it's basically a title fight. It's a title fight caliber fight. I mean, both those guys could be world champions. It's just the world champion in the division is just that much better. I love that fight. It's a karate style versus I don't know what to consider Luke Rockhold. I guess he's got kind of a weird, funky kickboxing, taekwondo kind of style. Because he does have those crazy kicks, and he's got very long limbs. He's very lanky, so he'll have the size advantage on Machida. I'm really interested in this one. I'm going to be there for it. So I'll be there with Yao, and I won't kill him. Hopefully.
#kill Yao. Ramses, who are you taking in this fight?
Remember about 15, 20 years ago, a weird glitch in the Matrix happened. Like Nelson Mandela, it's a weird thing that happened in the world, like society and like news. Like when you think back on it, you were like, you thought he was dead 10 years before he actually died recently. Like, for some reason, it's like the world reset itself in the Matrix. And all of a sudden, you were in a different reality where Nelson Mandela didn't die, but everyone remembers hearing about him dying. Everyone thought he was dead, but it never happened. It's weird. Anyway, Rockhold versus Machida. We've seen this fight before, people. Like, it's already happened. We all know it. Can't you guys see that? Look inside yourself. This fight has already happened. It's fuzzy. We don't remember exactly who won, what happened. But this fight has already taken place. We're just reliving some sort of groundhog scenario where it's repeating itself in a loop. It's happened before. Rockhold versus Machida happened. You guys know I'm right. Not all of this is sounding crazy to you. Think about it. Hey, smoke weed every day.
Oh my god.
This is the Eric Andre show.
The only reason that's cracking me up is because when I first heard about the fight, I was like, yo, so that's a rematch, right? Like, I thought the same thing. I thought they had fought before. Oh my god.
I'm not joking. This shit's real. It already happened. We already know it. We just can't remember it. It's like something in our subconscious. It's tapping into the other side. You know I'm right, Ross.
What did I get myself into?
You know I'm right. Everybody listening to this is like scratching their head like, this motherfucker.
Am I being
right.
Like,
that's the word on the street.
I got too high before this podcast, people. Let's try and keep the train rolling.
Don't do drugs, kids. Don't
do drugs, people. We had a lot of really fun fight announcements the last week. Lyoto Machida and Rockhold for UFC on Fox 15. Also, UFC 185. This news broke just a little while after we went off the air last week. Roy Nelson versus Alistair Overeem. Did we break that down last week, Ramses? I just gotten back.
No, you know what? I don't think we did.
Bender in Vegas.
I think it got announced after that, so no, we haven't. And shout out to Nick Moen. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, Nick, but yeah, shout out, man. We hear you. He was asking who the Gators fan was, and God bless him.
The Gators fan is me, cocksucker, at the MMA Podcast.
You broke that fight down? Did not?
We didn't.
We did not. Ross, break it down.
Break it down. It's very, very simple. Like, we can just speed right through this. This is how the fight's going to go. Either Alistair Overeem is going to get hit with an overhand right hand and just drop like he's dead. Or he's going to clinch Roy Nelson up against the cage, put him against the cage, kind of in the same style that Daniel Cormier loves to do when he's fighting a bigger guy. He's going to just smother him against the cage and just clinch him and knee the fuck out of him, pepper him up with some beautiful knees to the body and some nice punches and some dirty boxing, and yeah, win the fight inside the clinch. Maybe finish him inside the clinch. Who knows? Because he's not taking him to the ground. Because, I mean, Roy Nelson's apparently got this insane grappling game, which we haven't seen. But Overeem's no slouch on the ground, too. So, my pick, it's just difficult to pick Overeem these days, but I'm going to pick Overeem anyway. So, Overeem.
Yeah, I've said the same exact thing before every Roy Nelson fight the last 3 years. And I'll say it again, but this time, unlike all the other times, I have to make one caveat. What I've said each time, Roy Nelson, every single one of his fights go one of two ways. He either finishes the fight in the first round with a right overhand punch, or he loses the fight and gets pieced up to a very one-sided 30-27 finish. I've said that before every single Roy Nelson fight that's gone down since 2012. Now I have to make the caveat, unless you're Mark Hunt, because that guy just throws scary heat, and he KO'd Roy. But yeah, I think this goes the way of the unanimous decision. I think, Reem just pieces him up, leg kicks, pardon me, just keeps range. Yeah, this has 30-27 Reem written all over it. Ramses?
Yeah, we're going to go 3 for 3 on Overeem, man. He is going to win this fight, in my opinion. I think Roy Nelson is finally on the decline. His body is aging, and he's starting to, every year,
he's taking a lot of abuse.
Yeah, he's going to feel the effects of his body style and life choices. He's going to start feeling that now. He ain't a young man anymore. And you saw what happened to him. Who was it? Fucking Mark Hunt. And then before that, what's his name? The damn Brazilian. Son of a bitch. Weed, people. It happens. The last guy he fought that tuned him up, Submission Master, whatever his name was.
Verdum.
Yeah. There you go.
Miocic.
Verdum.
I mean, the list, JDS did it. The list goes on. And Frank Mir did it.
Yeah, God bless them all, man. They
what if he
figured it
just
out.
like took an entire year off? Let's say Roy Nelson takes like 2 years off, a year and a half, teams up with Mike Dolce,
Comes back at 85.
comes back at 85. You read my mind. Yes, comes back at 85.
I would
comes
bet on
back
him.
at 85.
I would bet on him just because, like, anybody with the willpower to do that, that's what it takes to win, people. But no, he's going to get TKO'd by Overeem. Overeem is going to just attack the body. Roy Nelson, Big Country, has no body defense whatsoever. Not very many people have exploited it, but I think Overeem will do it because I'm about to send him a text here and tell him, and that's the word in the street.
So we'll move on a little bit of a shakeup with the UFC Broomfield card, which is scheduled for Valentine's Day, February 14th in Broomfield, Colorado, at the First Bank Center. If you are here in the Denver/Aurora/Broomfield/Boulder/Golden area, get yourself a ticket, people. But the main event was going to be Matt Brown versus Tarek Saffiedine. Tarek backs out of the fight. The new main event will be what was the co-main event in Brennan Thatch versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. We will break that fight down the week it comes up. But Matt Brown now leaves this card to fight at UFC 185 against Johnny Hendricks, which I do want to talk about the implications of this fight being scheduled. Does this spell out the UFC actually listening to fans and saying, hey, you know what, we need to make Rory versus Lawler? Are they going to make that the main event of UFC 186 in Montreal? We will see. But first, let's break down the fight. Johnny Hendricks against Matt Brown. This is going to be such a fun fight at UFC 185. I don't know. I want to lean Johnny, but Brown can throw with the best of them. Johnny will obviously be a favorite, but Ross, which way are you leaning this bout scheduled for UFC 185?
Definitely Johnny Hendricks, without question. I mean, on paper, Johnny is just the much better fighter. As long as he's staying in shape in between camps, in between fights, and he's not blowing up, he should be the welterweight champion right now. He showed it with how he beat GSP, and I believe he can beat Robbie Lawler in dominant fashion as long as he's 100% on point. For both of the Robbie Lawler fights, he came in very fat, but going into the camp, I'm saying. Not so much into the fight, obviously, but when it came down to the weight cut, obviously, it fucked him up. He couldn't cut well, and the first time he couldn't make the weight. The second time, he barely made the weight on the first attempt. So, it's interesting.
You could see how
We'll
excited
he
he was when he made weight the first time in the second fight.
Yeah, that's the biggest battle for him, really, at this point, is just the weight cut. And that leads to just slowing down, and that leads to taking a lot more damage, and it accumulates. And who knows, maybe, being in 2 straight wars the same way he just was in his last 2 fights. And when you really think about it, the Condit fight was a war. The GSP fight was not exactly easy. He didn't take a lot of damage. He took some damage, but he didn't take as much damage as he did in the other fights. Then you look at the first Robbie Lawler fight, and he took so much damage in that. And you look at the second Robbie fight and all the damage he took in that. That's a lot of damage too. That's some Frankie Edgar shit. To take that much damage in just a short span of fights like that, that's not good. So that all plays a factor. Matt Brown, I just don't see him being able to defend Johnny Hendricks' takedowns. Johnny Hendricks is just the highest level of wrestler in that division right now. So I see just a clear-cut Johnny Hendricks decision. Or I could see Johnny Hendricks coming out just really angry and knocking him out really early. I could see, honestly, I would not be surprised to see Johnny Hendricks take that big left hand, and instead of throwing it to the chin or to the temple, I could see him throwing it, kind of trying to land like a left hook to the liver or something like that. Because we've seen in Matt Brown's previous fights that he's very susceptible to taking shots to the body. I mean, Eric Silva showed it, and it happened in his last fight against Robbie Lawler too. So I'm going with Johnny Hendricks by a left hook to the body.
Slam a Big Mac in the cage during the post-fight interview. Ramsey's the Immortal versus Big Rig. Who you got?
Roster, you're a fool. You're a damn fool. Johnny Hendricks will probably die fighting Matt Brown. All right? Johnny Hendricks is done. Matt Brown, everybody's sleeping on it. He has never been knocked out. He has never been TKO'd. So I don't know what you're talking about, because that's the only hope Johnny had. But guess what? Nah, man, it ain't going to happen here. No. Johnny has taken a beating. He is a reduced fighter now. His spirit is broken. He's scared. And he's hungry. Yeah, because he lost that belt and some of that money. That's starting to make sense to him. He's hungry, but he's that scared hungry. He's not that I'm going to go after it and feed my family type of hungry. Nah, Matt Brown is, though. Matt Brown's got to put food on the table, and he knows it. He knows he's got to win. He's got to beat Johnny Hendricks, get that title shot. And I think he'll do it. Probably decision, though. But let's not forget, he did lose his last fight to Robbie Lawler, and that was by decision. He went the distance. Robbie Lawler couldn't knock him out or finish him. Damn right Johnny Hendricks ain't going to. That's the word on the street.
And before we get off of this topic, the obvious next step to bring it to is, well, the UFC was going to have Robbie Lawler versus Johnny Hendricks 3 be the next welterweight title. Apparently that's not the next plan. That's not the plan anymore, at least. Ross, does this fight announcement mean that Robbie Lawler and Rory McDonald will headline UFC 186 at the Bell Center in Montreal?
Maybe.
That's all you got for me, maybe?
Maybe.
You son of a bitch. You know too much. Ramses, does this mean that Rory versus Lawler happens at 186? I say it does. 100%.
At this point, yes. But, once again, they fucked her. They fucked Rory. They don't want it to happen. They didn't want it to happen. They wanted to milk that trilogy. But, no, I that's probably it. You probably you just wrote the damn word on the street. Yeah, Roy will be next. The fans, enough of them want it. So that'll sell more than the damn trilogy, guaranteed. Especially if it pans out in Canada. This one's a no-brainer. I guess the only reason they were fucking Roy and putting him off is because they want him to actually, of course, fight his sensei, Master GSP, whenever he comes back. So I guess that's not working out. But, yeah, I hope it goes down. But I don't see Rory winning. I don't.
He does not see Rory winning in the rematch. Man, Rory gets better and better every single fight, and I hate to just say the exact thing as you said, but Robbie just showed such excellent counters to Rory's style, And I don't know if Rory has necessarily changed enough to handle what Robbie Lawler puts out there. Just fucking furious aggression. Ross, if Rory does end up fighting Lawler in a rematch at UFC 186, who are you taking?
Robbie Lawler, because stylistically, I feel that he matches up really well with Rory. I believe he's able to scramble back to his feet very quickly if Rory's able to get him down, which is not an easy thing to do. Johnny Hendricks is a Division I national champion. Like I said before, the highest level of wrestler in the entire UFC welterweight division right now. And he could not get Robbie Lawler down for more than just a few seconds in their second fight. So how many takedowns did he get? Like 1 or 2? 2 or 3? He struggled tremendously. It was like 3 for 11 or some crazy ratio like that. So I don't see Rory being able to take him down. I also don't see Rory being able to outstrike Robbie. I think Robbie's just too relentless with his pressure. I think Robbie's head movement is ridiculous. I think his cardio is very good. I think he paces himself well in the sense that he doesn't, sometimes he'll take it slow. Like, he kind of does something that Yoel Romero does, except Yoel does get tired a lot in the sense that he'll start slow, maybe, and then go really fast, or he'll do the opposite. He'll go really fast, and then he'll slow down a little bit, and then he'll pick up the pace again really quick and just have these bursts of energy and then slow it down. He'll just change the tempo, make you fight at his pace. I just think Robbie would be able to control the pace of the fight, and that would be Rory's downfall, and it would be a 5-round fight, which Rory has not fully gone through yet. He was scheduled for 5 rounds against Tarek Safedine, but it didn't go 5 rounds. So it'll be interesting to see if Rory can go 5 rounds with Robbie Lawler, or if Robbie Lawler can go 5 rounds with Rory McDonald. But I'm picking Robbie Lawler.
It makes it a clean sweep. 3-0 Robbie. And really quick, I was just looking up lines in case anyone was interested on the fights we broke down a little while ago. Luke Rockhold, minus 140, actually currently favorited against Lyoto Machida, who's plus 100, dead even for that UFC on Fox 15 card come April 18th. Also, Alistair Overeem, minus 260 against Big Country Roy Nelson, who's plus 180. Also, a tweet rolled in from our boy Nicholas Moen. Follow that man on Twitter, Nicholas with an H_Moen, O before the E. It's not E before the L like Finkelstein. But he said, thoughts on GSP versus Lawler at UFC 186. I don't think it happens, but it is in Montreal. And, the UFC has thrown us so many curveballs the last year. It wouldn't be that crazy, but I just couldn't imagine the UFC not slow burning the George come back. George is probably going to want to take his time, going to want to have a very full training camp for whoever he's scheduled against. So I think it's going to work toward both the UFC and George's favor to have a good at least 5 or 6 months, if not 7 or 8 months between announcing GSP's return to him actually making his comeback. I mean, at this point, now that 2015 has started, I don't see GSP in the octagon until at least December of this year, early next year. I mean, they're really going to slow burn this. Ross, what are your thoughts on the return of George St. Pierre?
Let's not get our hopes up. He's training, but he wants Roy McDonald to get a title shot first. Does GSP want to be champion? Oh yeah. Do I think GSP wants to be champion? Yeah, definitely. He's a competitive person. I mean, this is all he's ever done, really. He's been training his whole life. He's been preparing to be UFC champion his whole life.
So if Rory wins the belt, he moves up to 85?
No. Not necessarily. Maybe he goes to 55. I mean, he's not exactly huge, but right now he's pretty big. I mean, he went up to about 200 pounds, but he's put on a lot of muscle. So if he just lost that muscle, what? Juice? I don't think GSP's on the juice, and I think that's one of the things that's holding him back from that is one of the things that's holding him back from coming back, is because of the drug testing policies and how easy it is to get away with juicing in the UFC and in MMA, period. He's one of the biggest advocates for something being done. Random testing, more testing, just heavier testing, fight night, everything. And they just announced, after announcing just a few weeks back, they announced that they're going to have random testing in 2015, this year. They just announced, oh yeah, we're not having it this year. We can't do it. I mean, they fucked up one test or two tests, but they did it because of Jon Jones. Sickening.
Yeah. GSP versus Lawler. George coming back to fight Lawler in Montreal at UFC 186. I don't think it's going to happen either, but you'd be an idiot to think that they are not trying or have not tried to put that together. When GSP comes back, he has to immediately, it has to be a title fight. It has to be for the belt. That's just simple. That's mathematics, economics. It's fan demand. He's not going to get any filler fights. The only reason that Anderson Silva, who's making his comeback, isn't fighting for the title is because the dude that whooped his ass twice in a row still has the belt. Otherwise, I guarantee you it would have been Anderson Silva versus whoever the new champ was. Unfortunately, Weidman destroyed him. Exactly. He's exciting for back though. I'm exciting for back. And I'm
also exciting for back.
But this is going to be huge work. But we're not even talking about that one. But yeah, GSP versus Lawler at UFC 186 in Montreal. I'm sure they tried everything they could to make it happen. It still might. I mean, yeah, that's still a long ways off. It's enough time for GSP, who supposedly been training the whole time. I don't know. But yeah, I don't think they give him that much time to warm up and ease him back into it, man. Honestly, because 2015 has to be the year where the time is now. Like, it's got to be now or never. They're running out of money. That's the word.
Hashtag the time is now. Pay us, UFC. We are going to finish the show breaking down UFC Fight Night Boston, which is this Sunday. But first, I actually want to break down just one fight that's coming up in a couple days. This Friday, Bellator 132, Pitbull versus Straus. I want to break down that main event between Patricio Pitbull. Jesus Christ, I'm burping. Trying to over announce all these fucking names. Patricio Pitbull Freire versus Daniel Straus. Had a little bit too much of the Jameson Diet Coke, people. Who do you have in that one? I'm leaning toward Pitbull, simply because he was recently on the FRB show a couple weeks ago. Check that out if you haven't yet. Ross, who are you going for in the Bellator Featherweight Championship fight? It's going to be on Spike TV.
This is a ridiculously good fight. Everybody tune into it this Friday on Spike. It's going to be insane. Both these guys are top 5 caliber featherweights. I'm not saying they're both top 5 currently. I mean, that's a huge division, but they could both be top 5.
Shit, yeah.
I mean, they may very well be. Patricio Pitbull could very well have a super fight with Jose Aldo at some point. He's that good. And Daniel Straus is unbelievable. I mean, he's the former champion, and he could very well be a UFC champion one day. I mean, who knows what his potential is. I think Patricio Pitbull comes away with the victory. I think he's just that much better. I think it will be a close fight. I think it will be a fun fight, and I think it's a great way to kick off 2015 for Bellator.
Yao, can I get your quick take on Pitbull versus Daniel Straus?
I root for all black fighters solely because they're black just like me.
Hot takes. Ramses, who are you taking in the Bellator Featherweight Championship?
I'm not going to pretend like I'm going to watch it, but I will also go with Pitbull Fury because he was, like you said, on the Front Row Brian show. He was nice enough to donate his time, come on the show, talk to a mutual friend of ours. So for that reason alone, I pay him respect. All right, goes a long way in this world. And because he was on the FRB show, he will win this next fight handily. God bless him. And if you see the fight, let me know how it goes down.
I will let you know it's going to go down this Friday. Like I said, on Spike TV, the main card starts at 9 Eastern. But let's change gears. The card that a lot of MMA fans are going to be paying close attention to. And honestly, I'm I'm very curious to see how the ratings do for this fight, because they promoted the shit out of this during the NFL playoffs. The NFL playoffs get a ton of eyes on it. We got McGregor versus Seaver. We're going to break that down, save the best for last. We'll save the prelims. We usually talk about each fight, but honestly, if you want to look at all the fights, go look it up on Google. Cocksuckers. We're only going to break down the main card that starts on Fox Sports 1 at 10 p.m. on the East, 7 p.m. On the West Coast. Not Saturday, but Sunday, January 18th. Conor McGregor, Dennis Seaver headlining the fight. We got an awesome co-main event too, but let's start at the bottom of the main card. Norman Park taking on Gleison Tibau. Ross, who are you leaning toward in the lightweight match? Tibau, I believe, is a little bit of a favorite in Vegas, but Park does not have as many losses on his record. A young guy seems to have a lot of potential.
This is a fucking fun fight. I love this fight. It is a
super fun fucking fight, dude.
This is a very, very fun fight. Gleison Tibau has been one of the most consistent fighters quietly in MMA history. I mean, his record's a little deceiving. It's 30-10, so you look at it and you go, okay, the guy's lost a lot. But you look at who he's lost to and when the losses are.
All great fighters.
He really only loses to whoever is the best of the best at the time. And it's not like he's getting finished. He's only been knocked out once or twice. So you're talking about a very, very solid fighter and this is a guy who has victories over the elite of the elite too. We're talking about someone who just a few years ago beat the guy who's now fighting for the title in just a few months in the lightweight division, Rafael dos Anjos. He beat Rafael dos Anjos. And he's got plenty of other wins. He's beaten Jeremy Stevens, Jamie Varner, Pat Healy, and the list goes on and on. However, Norman Park, he is undefeated in the UFC. He's someone who's come on the scene the last few years. He won tough smashes. And he's looked very, very, very solid, but he hasn't fought anybody yet. He hasn't gotten any test. This is the biggest test of his career. I kind of am leaning towards Gleison Tibau. I just think that Norman Park's wrestling has not been tested by someone of Gleison Tibau's caliber, who is just a powerhouse. And I mean, Gleison Tibau is up there for the most takedowns in UFC history. He's an animal as far as takedowns go. I mean, just strength goes. He's just an animal. I'm going with Gleison Tibau. I'm going on too long. I'm getting tired here because it's almost 3 a.m. So yeah, Gleison Tibau. I'm picking Gleison Tibau by a decision. But I don't think Norman Park's getting blown out here. I don't think he's getting finished. I just think Gleison Tebow is going to edge out a win here.
Which way are you leaning, Ramses?
I think Norman Park is going to win. He's going to flatline Gleison. That dude's he's a filler fighter. He's like one of the dudes in Punch-Out that you just beat to like build up your stats on one before you go to the next fight. He's that dude. And Norman Park, like I was telling Jake, he once favorited a tweet of mine recently, actually. So for that reason alone, I will back him 100%. I believe it'll probably be a decision and probably a boring fight, actually. But I got Norman Park all the way.
Gleison.
I'd actually.
Sorry.
Can I just point something out? You might not realize this, but Gleison Tebow, even though he's had all these fights and he's been in the UFC since like 2005, he's only 31. So
Shit.
he has a lot
fights.
of time.
Yeah.
He still has a lot of time. He's had 40 fights and he still has a lot of time to grow. And he trains at one of the best camps in all of MMA at ATT.
ATT, Killers, Lombard, Lawler.
But think about his
Woodley.
training partners. I mean, Woodley, Will Brooks,
Yeah.
Dustin Poirier, just a who's who of killers. Robbie Lawler. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. That as far as that area in MMA, 155, 170. If you want to be in the best camp in the world, you go to ATT. As far as for 155 and 170. And Gleison Tebow is still so young, 31. Most fighters retire by like 35. So he's still got at least 4 good years left. And especially you look at Robbie Lawler. I mean, Robbie Lawler is so young too. He's only like 31 or 32. So, and he's been around forever. So Gleison Tebow could very well end up having like a huge turnaround like Robbie Lawler.
He's
Who knows?
old. I don't buy the 30.
I don't know.
Believe,
Anything
I don't
can
believe
happen.
that he's
MMA,
31.
This is a crazy freaking sport, and anything can happen. Anything can happen.
His hairline alone recedes. He's not a day under 55 years old, and that's the word on the street.
I have one problem with Gleison Tebow, and it's this. His full name is Jenny Gleison Herculano Alves.
Oh,
So he takes the second part of his actual first name, Janny Gleison. He cuts off the Jani and just makes it Gleison Tebow, which is actually the city he's from in northeast Brazil that only has, I think, 5,000 people living there. And
So it's a
that's
fake
actually
name,
the city.
but his
so
age is
it's so it's like, you know, me being like Jake Tampa. But he like my problem is not with him picking a fake name, which, you know, you have baseball players from Asia pick fake names, MMA fighters from wherever pick fake names. I don't care. It's just the fact that his actual name is so cool. He could have gone with Herculano Alves. Dude, you have like Hercules in your name and you're fucking ignoring that shit as a UFC fighter. Your full name is Janny Gleison Herculano Alves. Change your name to Herculano Alves. That's the coolest name ever. Come on, Gleison Tebow. What the fuck?
Nope. But then you could look him up and then find out how old he actually is. Because look, guys, trust me, this guy is at least 50 years old. Word on the street.
I'm taking Herculano Alves to win the fight. He, I don't know, like Ross said, he's training with killers. He's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, taking on Norman Park, who's a black belt in Judo. Either way, it's going to be a fun-ass fight, but we can't stay on this fight forever. We have to move on to Uriah Hall versus Ron Stallings. And Ramses, you know, I'm going to throw it to you first on this fight, because I think you have the word on what's going to go down with our boy Uriah Hall taking on Ron Stallings in a middleweight fight. No one wanted to take the fight.
Yeah, that's the problem. Uriah is having this problem because he does strike fear into the heart of his opponent. It's cliche, but that's exactly what he does, man. All of a sudden, uh, everybody's injured or sick. Someone gets tagged by the UFC. They're like, "Oh shit, the UFC just called me. Of course, I'm going to say yes." They say yes, and then they hang up the phone. They start telling their friends and family the good news, and their friends and family look at him like he just announced he had cancer. You understand me, people? You don't want to fight Uriah Hall. Nobody wants to fight this guy. Ron Stallings, his actual fighter nickname is the Choir Boy. This guy is something like 54 and 123 losses. It's ridiculous. This guy has got nothing for Uriah Hall. He's getting set up to.
It actually is his record, 54 and 143.
Exactly, man. This guy is being set up before our very eyes, but it's great, man. It's like when they feed the goat to the T-Rex in Jurassic Park. We're all sitting there. We're all gonna watch this shit. We're just waiting for that T-Rex to come swooping in, scooping in with his ridiculous little tiny arms, but his giant jaws, just eating that shit alive in front of everyone, man. Putting on a show. Uriah Hall ain't afraid anymore. He is the real. He'll at least give Weidman a run for his money someday. I swear to God, as God is my witness, and hopefully he puts on enough of a show defeating the Choir Boy to prove that he's worthy of at least moving up a little bit. Give him he could headline a fight night if he pulls this off, and I hope he does. God bless him. Friend of
Ron
mine.
Stallings, he's 54 and 143. His last fight was in Cage Fury Fighting Championships 43. He lost. He fights with Team Lloyd Irvin. Lloyd Irvin, a known rapist. Ross, what are your thoughts on Stallings taking on Team Darkside, one of their top fighters, Uriah Hall?
It's just a complete mismatch. Uriah Hall is going to absolutely destroy whoever this Choir Fancy Boy is. That's it.
Yeah, the fight line's pretty ridiculous. Uriah Hall's minus 900, meaning in order to profit $100 on this fight, you would need to bet $900 on Uriah Hall. Pretty fucking ridiculous. So we'll move on to a fight that's much more intriguing. A fight that was made very recently. Donald Cerrone, who fought literally 11 days ago. He's going to be fighting this weekend on Sunday against an old rival, Benson Henderson, who he fought twice in the WEC. Their first fight was honestly my favorite MMA match of all time. Looking at the odds, it's actually pretty even. Bendo a slight favorite at minus 135, Cerrone plus 115. I think if Cerrone had a little bit more time to get ready, this might be a straight pick'em fight, but things are probably edging a little bit toward Bendo because he's had the time to relax and train, where Cerrone has just fought. Although he did beat the shit out of Miles Jury, that was a beatdown. Ross, which way are you going in the trilogy fight that actually has a lot of bearing in the lightweight title picture between Benson Henderson and the Cowboy Donald Cerrone?
This is a very, 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 very difficult fight to predict. First fight was very close. Second fight didn't go long enough for us to really see what could happen because Benson caught him very early, less than 2 minutes into the first round. This fight, it's kind of a shame because it's not under the right circumstances, in the sense that I wish we could see it under better circumstances, maybe for a title or something, because it's a fight that could very well be for a title. I mean, both these guys are world champion level. But instead, it's the co-main event. It's a 3-round co-main event on Fox Sports 1. It's buried. It's under Conor McGregor versus Dennis Siver, which, no disrespect to that fight, Conor McGregor is a superstar. This is a bigger fight. I mean, Donald Cerrone versus Ben Henderson, or more respectfully, Ben Henderson versus Donald Cerrone, because Ben Henderson's the former champion. Henderson Cerrone 3 is a main event, or at least like a pay-per-view co-main event or a Fox main event or something. It's a huge fight. It should be, if not a 5-round fight, at least a co-main event on a pay-per-view to be a big 3-round fight. So now that we have the 3-round factor in the way, instead of it being a 5-round fight, Cowboy has looked very good as of late in these 3-round fights. And he could go 5 rounds. The improvements that Cowboy has made in his game, the evolution of Donald Cerrone, has been unbelievable. And on the flip side, yes, Ben Henderson's a very, very good fighter. I feel like he is not improving with the times, if that makes any sense. I feel like he's kind of just staying.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
He's maxed out as far as his improvement. It's like working with John Crouch and working with all those guys over at the MMA lab. He has plateaued, yes. It's time for him to pack up and find a new place to train or change something up, because he's just doing the same thing and it's not working anymore because people are figuring him out. I mean, Rafael Dos Anjos just figured him out. Josh Thompson pretty much figured him out. Anthony Pettis figured him out. Gilbert Melendez figured him out. Frankie Edgar figured him out in the second fight. So he's been figured out plenty of times now. Sometimes he's stolen decisions, sometimes he hasn't. I believe, even though it is on 13 days notice, 14 days notice, 15 days notice, whatever it is, I don't know the exact number, I believe Donald Cerrone can very well figure out Ben Henderson in this fight. He's fought him twice already. Ben has not evolved so much with the times. I believe Ben may very well be the same fighter he was in the second fight or the first fight. I mean, they weren't that far apart from each other, but Ben hasn't made major improvements. He's changed his style a little bit, but he hasn't made major improvements since the early UFC fights that he had, since he became champion. Once he became champion, he changed. Once he came to the UFC, he changed. That being said, Donald Cerrone also does a lot of crazy shit, so who knows? He could do something ridiculous and end up getting injured before the fight and hiding it and then fighting with an injury and getting the shit beat out of him. And then there's also the factor that whenever Donald has these huge fights, he chokes. I'm going to go, though, with Donald Cerrone. I'm going to take the risk and say Donald Cerrone is going to pull this off and make it 7 in a row.
And the one thing I wanted to say, you said at the very end of that, which was when Bendo got his title, he changed a little bit, and that urgency in his fighting style went away, and he went from that urgent fighting, trying to finish, to being a guy who was very complacent with getting judges' nods. Cerrone is hungrier than he's ever been, and Bendo has been somewhat complacent in his fighting of recent. So I'm going Cerrone all day. Ramses, who you got before we break down the main event and get the fuck out of here?
Real quick, Bendo. He's got technique, and that's Cerrone's weakness. If you fold or cave in front of Cerrone and let him cloud you, you're going down. But if you out-technique him, stay consistent, strong, same shit's going to happen the first time. Bendo all the way. Cowboys on a streak, yes, but in his case, it just means that he's due for a loss. Word on the street.
Yao, who are you taking between Bindo and Cerrone?
I root for all black fighters solely because they're black just like me.
Understood. Yeah. Moving to the main event, Conor McGregor and Dennis Siver. You look at best fight odds, and you're not giving Siver much of a chance here. Conor McGregor is minus 1,200, which, man, that is a giant line against plus 775. Dennis Siver is just the perennial gatekeeper. You look at his records, and yeah, you definitely can't give him too much hate for all of his losses, because all of his losses have come to top-notch fighters: Cub Swanson, Donald Cerrone, Ross Pearson, who's still, killing it, Melvin Gillard back in '08 when fucking Gillard was a wrecking ball. The same thing, Gray Maynard when Gray was a wrecking ball. But then you look at all of his wins, and man, what is his most impressive win? Diego Nunez before the UFC cut him, Nan Fan before the UFC cut him, George Sotiropoulos when he sort of fell off. I mean, he has no real credible wins. Conor would far and above be his best win ever in the UFC, whereas if he lost to Conor, it would just sort of fall into a pattern of top guys beating him, which, I don't want to take anything away from the German. Just he is a perennial gatekeeper, and Conor, God, he is on a tear. The 26-year-old from Dublin, I think, finishes it in the first round. I honestly don't think Dennis Siver stands a chance here. Ross, what is your pick for the featherweight main event in Boston that you should be going to? You're up there in that area, you son of a bitch.
I am Brooke. I will not be going. I'll be watching it on TV. And I'll be training early in the day, watching it on TV, and then training early in the morning the next day. Conor's very inspiring to watch. I like watching him. There's a certain level in the sport that you need to be at to be a world champion. And it's a very, very elite level. There's not many people who can reach that level out of the thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people that try to go into this field. I guess you could say go into this sport, go into this line of work. There's only a handful, a very small number of people who are capable of being a world champion. Dennis Siver is not one of those people. Conor McGregor is one of those people. Conor McGregor is not only one of those people, but Conor McGregor is in a special class within those people, which is ridiculous to say, and a lot of people have made claims similar to that, but I will stand by that claim that Conor McGregor is something special, something out of the ordinary, something different, both with the way that he presents himself in a promotional standpoint and with the way he presents himself skill-wise, physically in the cage, and what he's just capable of. If you've seen the sports science thing, you can see how ridiculous he is, how ridiculously powerful he is, how ridiculously quick he is. He is just one of the most perfect athletes you can have in the sport. He loves human body movement. He's addicted to movement. He loves studying movement.
Get a room.
Okay. I'm so tired. I'm about to pass out after this. He loves movement. He loves studying movement. He's just a completely different animal. He's in the same. I would consider him in the same class as an Anderson Silva, to be honest, because
honestly.
Anderson maybe doesn't have great wrestling, but he's unbelievably quick, and he moves so well. Honestly, Conor may even move better. Conor is going to just sum it up, Conor is going to destroy
For fuck's sake.
For fuck's sake. Shut up, for fuck's sake. Y'all should know where that comes from. And if not, go back and listen to the episodes prior to this from
Go
like a
listen
year
to
ago.
every episode prior to this.
Yes, shout out to the word on the street also.
Shout out to this podcast that you're listening to currently.
Yes, the MMA podcast, what you're listening to right now. Hopefully.
Shout out to Jake. Shout out to Jake.
Yeah, shout out to Mystery Meds for that ridiculous fucking song.
That's a dope ass song, right?
That was super dope. But wait, back to the breakdown because I'm ridiculously tired. I gotta go
That's
sleep.
a dope song.
Conor McGregor is going to destroy Dennis Siver, like he says, in 2 minutes or less. His spinning back kick is his spinning back kick is as quick as his jab, maybe slightly slower, and by slightly I mean just milliseconds. I believe that'll connect on Dennis Siver. He's got a better spinning back kick than Dennis Siver. Dennis Siver is known for his spinning back kick, but other than that, he has shitty looping punches. He's not that great of a boxer. Meanwhile, Conor has very fast hands, very fluid hands. He's very defensive too. He's a very offensive fighter, but he's very defensive at the same time, which means he's very elusive, kind of like a Machida, except more powerful and just hits from different angles. And it's just, he's a different animal, man. He's a different kind of fighter. And I believe he destroys Dennis Siver, goes on to fight Jose Aldo, and that's going to be one of the biggest fights of the year, if not the biggest fight of the year by far, because it's going to be in Croke Park in front of 90,000 people, and it's going to be the greatest spectacle you've ever seen.
I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to obliterate the entire division. Ramses, who are you taking in the main event here? Is it that foregone conclusion that Conor McGregor is going to mollywop this guy?
Yep, unless Conor McGregor somehow suffers a massive heart attack in the opening 10 seconds, he will win this fight. It will be 100% a work, people. We're going to see one of the probably the most obviously fixed fights in the history of MMA if we get treated enough to a good enough performance here. Yeah, Dennis Siver, I mean, you think he gives a damn about taking a dive? This was the only way we would have ever seen him headline anything again for the rest of his life.
The fight was a work, people.
Yep, and these Germans, man, pride is out the window ever since they lost the war. All right, they don't give a fuck. He'll sell out for a damn dime, and God bless him. He's a company man. He's doing what's right, but make no mistake, this fight is 100% set up, a fabrication, a fugazi fight. They're not even trying to sell it to you. This fight is going to be the biggest formality in MMA history. And they don't even want your money. They're playing it on a Sunday night at 2, 3 a.m. Your viewing party is going to be catered by Jack in the Box and Taco Bell.
It's a fugazi.
God bless. I'll stay up. I'll smoke that weed.
Cocksucker.
Hey, smoke weed every day. That's the word on the street.
And that's the best way we can end it. We thank you for listening in. Ross, I know it's late as shit on the East Coast. We thank you for being in on the show. So before we let you go, where do we find you on the Twitter sphere? All of that. I think there's like an E before the L or something like that.
It goes something like this. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the Jew is back, the Jew is here. The Jew is on the MMA podcast. If you want to find me, if you want to see what I'm up to, I don't tweet as much, but I can tweet just for you. You can find me 100% the Jew at Ross Finkelstein, E before the L. I'm coming to a gym, the training facility, whatever it is near you soon. I'm training my ass off. I'm going to fight soon. Catch my Twitter for more information.
That's right. Follow the original host, Chris, at C. Lowenstein, Yao_the truth. Do not follow Westland Eagle AH. Do not follow Hiro Shinwoo. But follow our friends, Technics, Mystery Meds. Follow Eddie Bravo. Follow everyone. Follow the fam, Davey Boy. Go to stamps.com and fanduel.com. Use the promo code Davey Boy for 100% off your deposit. Ramses, where do we find you?
Hit me up on Twitter, The Ant Jimmy Show. I don't even care what you tell me or talk to me about, it doesn't matter. I just want to leave off by saying to my Katie Bear, it's you 2015, you broke my heart last year. But girl, you're my 9/11, and I'll never forget. Word on the street.
If you like the MMA podcast, I want you to go to the gas station, buy one of those red portable containers filled up with gasoline. Then I want you to go back to your house, cover your house in gasoline, and light your house on fire. Or tell a friend about the podcast, the MMA Podcast. We're on Twitter at the MMA Podcast, themmmapodcast.com. We appreciate you listening. We'll be back later this week with the word on the street, and next week with another edition of the MMA Podcast. We gone.
Jake. Tune into the MMA Podcast every Tuesday night.
Act the wild style, always been a foul child. Realize, sucker, I be the coming like Noah.
The MMA Podcast, Jake is the host. And since Ramsey's been in the wheelchair, the Aunt Jimmy Show has been on a roll. I wanna say Jon Jones is a host, so I think that I'll pick up the phone and dial 213-457-3380. We got hot takes on the show. You get blood on your clothes if you're sitting in the front row. I throw on my gi and then I lace the hoops. I'll have Gal lying down cause he ain't the truth. And if Alan wasn't a cop, I'd mention you. And shout out to Ross Finkelstein the Jew. Cause according to you, you're an MMA guru. A Brew Bisbing lost his hands count Dooku. If you're a fancy boy, you get a 2-minute slot. Mystery wants a title shot. So listen to the MMA Podcast. Throw a high kick, but I block that. Call me T-Ass, screaming George, where you at? I'm on the strap. But you know that I'll never tap. So listen to the MMA Podcast. Throw a high kick, but I block that. Call me D.S. screaming George, where you at? I want the strap. And you know that I won't tap. Mystery. Stay black. The MMA Podcast. Most of us just live and breathe this fighting shit. Shut up, Jake. Shut up, Jake.